G'day guys and gal. The rise of the Tau was one of the more unexpected things to happen in the 40k universe, not just because a bunch of diplomatic blue bovine people with questionable orifices on their foreheads have been able to thrive in a galaxy that hates everything they stand for, but also because there are many living characters in the setting that are significantly older than the Tau's entire culture. Their meteoric rise and advancement has them poised to quite literally be the most powerful faction in the setting within the next 1,000 years, according to various scientific laws regarding technological advancement. After all, they are literally the only faction that isn't technologically stagnant. So how has the galaxy and its many factions reacted to the new kid on the block? Are they worried by them, hateful of them, or just see them as a joke? That is today's question. Before we get started, the Cyber Dynasty launch is officially over, with the models leaving the Major Mini store as of 5 minutes ago. Thank you so much to everyone who got in on it, picked up some models and supported the drop. It's a lot of work dealing with that many new models in one launch on top of our already pretty large range, so it's been incredible seeing Major Minis go to the next level. We are hard at work printing and sending out all the orders. Full transparency, there was more than we expected, so it may take a little bit more time to get them out than usual. Not too long, but just not as fast as our usual delivery. The rights for the Cyber Dynasty have returned to Dungeons and Dreadnoughts, and Major Minis will no longer be selling any Cyber Dynasty models. However, all is not lost. Dungeons is currently preparing to launch a Kickstarter sometime in the future, which will involve new Cyber Dynasty models, including the Lieutenant and the Captain, and it may also involve STLs. I'm not entirely sure, like I said, not my Kickstarter, but definitely worth a follow if you want to see how that unfolds in the future. Who knows, maybe when the range has grown even more, we may be able to bring it back to Major Minis in the future. Thank you again for the support on this one. Big things to come. Today we'll go over how each faction within Warhammer 40k reacted to the rise of the Tau Empire. Let's get into it. Kicking us off with the Imperium and the Tau. Although the two factions would go to war pretty quickly after saying good day for the first time, due to the Tau not really understanding that attempting to assimilate Imperial worlds was a huge no-no, their initial reactions and interactions were actually quite positive. The Damocles Gulf was far from Imperial rule, and as such, far from its hardcore dogma and xenophobic nature. It also didn't interact much with the Imperium beyond paying its tithe. So when a bunch of nice little alien dudes rocked up and started getting all diplomatic and shit, those worlds were happy to receive them, as the Tau brought more advanced farming technology, medicine, energy sources, and a way of life that didn't basically just say eat shit and then die in the name of the Emperor. However, as a side effect of this diplomacy, those Imperial worlds stopped paying their tithes, which is a huge no-no. You can legitimately get away with anything as an Imperial governor: daily orgies, xeno-drugs, xeno-cooperation, hectic corruption, and more. But if you don't pay your taxes, the Imperium will curb stomp the shit out of you. Hence a large fleet arrived and began massacring the Tau, pushing them out of Imperial space and then further into Tau space. The conflict ended in a bit of a stalemate, after the Tau proved to be more resilient than expected, and the Tyranid threat began to increase, thus required more attention. The Damocles Gulf Crusade, as it was named, was a very educational conflict for both factions, but mostly the Tau, who revamped a lot of their battle doctrine and weaponry to effectively counter Space Marines and Psykers, or mind scientists as they are called, since the concept of humans tapping into the power of hell to unleash death upon the Tau was a bit too far-fetched for their naive brains. Although they got off to a rough start after some initial niceties, the Tau and Imperium have engaged in diplomacy many times since this conflict, and will work together just as much as they will kill each other. Various inquisitorial agents have great relationships with certain Tau members, whilst Commissar Kane is seen as a bit of a hero by the Tau Empire. These relationships have helped prevent a number of more wasteful wars between the two factions, allowing them to focus more on the Orcs and the Tyranids. You would think that the Mechanicus would get massive hard-ons for Tau tech, as it isn't corrupted and it obeys the law of science and physics. After all, they love Necron tech. However, despite taking it apart, learning from it, and potentially integrating a few of its more basic systems, the Mechanicus don't really give a fuck. Imperial high tech is miles above the best the Tau currently have. However, Tau common tech is above Imperial common tech, if that makes sense. So a lot of the stuff the Tau have, the Mechanicus already knows how to make. So overall, it's not really worth being labelled a heretic for messing with Xeno stuff if the Xeno stuff isn't light years above what you already know. Orcs don't spend much time self-reflecting or thinking about situations, so we don't really get a full in-depth analysis of their opinion and reaction to the Tau, but we do know they don't take them very seriously. When the Tau discovered the Orcs, they sent Watercast members to engage in diplomacy. The first group of Watercasts were massacred by the Orcs, so the Tau Tau sent another group, thinking the first instance might have been an accident or misunderstanding. In the second group, they also brought guns to give as gifts, but they didn't put ammo in the guns. So the Orcs took the guns and then beat the Tau to death with them for a laugh. After this, the Tau Empire declared the Orcs as incompatible with the greater good, and thus they must be killed on sight. The Orcs thought the Tau were stupid and bad at fighting, hence when they invaded a Tau world, they thought it would be a breeze, and initially it was. Until Commander Farsight arrived. The legend himself did a few tactical analyses of the Orc forces and strategies, and then begun engaging in battles that the Orcs didn't really enjoy. Assassinations, skirmishing, hit and runs, everything the Orcs despise, Farsight did. As the Tau seemingly had no clue how to properly fight Orcs until Farsight came up with a manual on how to do it, it appears that this was the first major conflict between the Orcs and the Tau, although the Tau did fight against the Orcs in order to save the Kroot and integrate the Kroot within the Tau Empire. So it is a little bit confusing that they had fuck all battle doctrine until Farsight's war against them, but that doesn't really matter. You would think with how slippery the Tau can be, that the Orcs would hate them, but they actually love their guns, their Dakar, as well as the Tau battlesuits. Orcs love looting Tau tech, it's like magic to them, so overall the Orcs were overjoyed to have a new type of enemy that they could fight. The Elder had an interesting reaction to the Tau. You would have thought that they would see the Tau as a weak inferior race, but in reality they see them in a similar way to how they see themselves before their fall. Full of hope, rapidly evolving, and with a lot of potential. The Tau's lack of psychers is a bit grim from the Elder's perspective, however it also makes them wonder if that is what will protect the Tau from following the same foolish path as the Elder and even mankind. However, you gotta remember that each Elder craftworld has a different opinion and attitude, and each Elder sub-faction also has different opinions and attitudes. So while some craftworlds have aligned with the Tau in the past, and do still have treaties, others will ignore them or even kill them. Relations between the Tau and the craftworlders were severely strained when the Dark Elder pranked the Tau by turning some of their people into fleshy abominations, before then kidnapping the populace of another world and turning them into slaves/fleshlights. In response, the Tau attacked a maiden world and fought Craftworld Elder, not realizing the difference between Dark Elder and Other Elder. So there did end up being a bit of a war between the two that ended when the truth was made clear. The Tau said sorry and tried to re-engage diplomacy, but the Craftworld was like, "Lick my rim, you little blue fucker," and left. Since then it's been hit or miss. Tau and craftworlders rarely fight. Same goes for Tau and Exodite. Harlequins enjoy manipulating the Tau for their own gain and occasionally massacring them when the Tau end up exploring Sacred Elder locations. The Dark Elder initially saw the Tau as easy pickings, as seen by their first fatal encounter. However, the Tau have since adapted to Dark Elder raiding tactics, resulting in numerous Dark Elder raids against the Tau failing really badly. So overall it's complicated, but relations between Tau and Elder are a bit better than human and Elder, due to the Tau not being super xenophobic. Tyranids don't really react to shit, they just eat it. To them, the Tau are just another source of resilient biomass, and they will attempt to devour any Tau world that they can. The hive mind is probably a bit more cautious of Tau worlds than most, due to the Tau's use of drones, biomass destroying plasma weapons, hive fleet destroying nanoviruses, Kroot, and more. But overall, it doesn't stop them. In return, the Tau fucking hate the Tyranids and have them on their incompatible with the greater good shoot on sight registry. The situation with the Gene Stealers is pretty interesting. Gene Stealers can and have infected Tau before, but due to the Tau society structure, it's extremely difficult for them to take over Tau worlds. Tau breeding is a structured and authorized thing. Tau also don't have cults or secret groups, nor do they have sprawling hive cities. When a Gene Stealer was once found by some Tau scientists, it got brought into a lab for study. During the study, a few of the scientists got infected, and after a few decades, there was a mini uprising stemming from the laboratory that was put down, and the world didn't require exterminatus or anything like it. So the Gene Stealers find the Tau very frustrating to infect, and just like to stick with infecting humans instead. Considering the Tau and the Necrons are very similar in a lot of ways, they don't have a particularly good relationship at all, nor did the Necrons seem to have a particularly impressed reaction. Neither factions has psykers. Both factions value technology above all else. There's even a theory that the Tau are modified Necron tier. Their first interaction was when the Necrons saved a Tau world from the Tyranids. The Tau then prepared a celebration to honor these new heroic alien friends. As the Tau prepared to receive the Necron delegation, the Necron said "Lamau" and then scoured the world clean of life before leaving. However, on a separate occasion when the Necrons saved the Tau from the Tyranids, they simply left the Tau alone and departed, leaving the Tau confused but grateful. The Necrons see the Tau as beneath them, another inferior race on their fucking law that they will soon remove. It doesn't help that unlike the Elder, who have tech and abilities that the Necrons don't, or humanity, who have somewhat impressed the Necrons due to them conquering the galaxy, the Tau are literally just a downgrade of the Necrons. Same theme, same vibe, inferior tech. However, as with the different Elder craft worlds, each Necron dynasty also has a different opinion. For example, the Necrons that left the Tau alone after saving them from the Tyranids were servants of the Silent King, the honourable leader of the Necrons that believes the Tyranids are the galaxy's main threat, and that the flesh and blood races need to be preserved against them. However, the Necrons that scoured the Tau planet after saving them were obviously from a more genocidal dynasty. The Sortek dynasty often invade Tau space. In one funny piece of lore, after the Kroot won a battle against the Necrons, they attempted to consume some of the broken Necron corpses that were too damaged to phase back to their tomb world for repair. The Kroot thought that the living metal corpses would give them powerful evolutionary buffs, but instead it gave them Necron AIDS, which tore them a new asshole. So yeah, don't eat Necrons. Overall, the Tau are confused by the Necrons. Sometimes they are saviors, sometimes enemies, as evident by the fact that the Tau once teamed up with the Ultramarines in order to fight the Necrons are pretty low on the Tau's list of potential friends. However, they haven't quite put them on the kill on sight list yet. Tau and Chaos obviously don't get along, but with the Tau being difficult to corrupt and possess due to their small souls, they are pretty low on Chaos's to-do list. In return, Tau don't really understand Chaos or the Warp. They have teasers here and there, but mostly they see demons as a dangerous xenoform. In return, we don't really know much about how Chaos reacted to the Tau. We know that the Death Guard tried to invade Tau space via the Startide Nexus, but not a whole lot else. Amazingly, the Tau actually beat back the Death Guard, likely making Chaos finally take the Tau seriously. Due to the efforts of Shadow Sun as well as the Tau Warp God, the Death Guard were defeated with their commander being killed. Khorne also has a hard-on for Commander Farsight, and has attempted to corrupt him numerous times. So whilst the two factions don't often encounter each other, some of Chaos seems to be pretty fascinated and even impressed with the Tau. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be, where we have just uploaded yet another lore-friendly Commissar Kane not suitable for work artwork. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more bovine content. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.